Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy practitioner. And I just finished reading the 10th chapter in the Kybalion by the three initiates about polarity. And it inspired me to write something about polarity, and I want to talk specifically about it more right now. So I'm going to read this document and probably embellish it a little bit. So, chapter 10, polarity. Everything has two poles, basically, is what it is. I could just read what it says here in the book also. Page 71. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. So that's in the plane of duality where we are, according to the Kybalion. The all is in unity consciousness, and we are in duality. We can aspire to be in unity. We can do things to be unified. So, everything has two poles. So everyone has a trigger and they go off the deep end. This is also within the law of polarity, bipolar. Here's my question. Is it really okay to act like that? So, think about it. Don't you go off the deep end now and then in the car, to your spouse, to your dog, by yourself? Don't you go off the deep end? Start screaming, spewing? Ask yourself this question. I mean, a lot of people don't remember that they do this. Okay, I'm going to go on. Isn't that bipolar activity at the root of our troubles? Think about all the groups you have tried to be involved in throughout your life. Was there not always someone who was too overbearing and the rest of the group sided silently against them? This is polarity. Almost every single one of us has a crazy side where we go off the deep end and yell and spew bullshit, and we never say we are sorry. That is polarity. Looking good versus admitting we have spewed. Light versus dark, love versus hate. No, not me, you may be saying. Well, maybe you don't remember because it's so abhorrent to who you think you are that you can't possibly be that way. Well, then when you shun it, that makes it go into the shadow. Again, the car. How do you act in the car? I mean, I'm not talking about something I don't also deal with. I do yell at people in the car when I'm by myself, and even when I have my partner with me in the car, my husband with me in the car, I do spew. And then of course he reacts to me and it's a fiasco, right? But so I try to tone it down when there's other people in the car. But when I'm by myself, oh yeah. If you are married, you know what I'm talking about. And this sort of behavior kills a marriage when it goes unaddressed. Is that the secret code in the marriage vow? To love, honor, and cherish in sickness and in health? Are they talking about the polarity thing that everybody hides? Many of us go into a blackout rage and don't remember this behavior. I have a friend who is getting divorced over this right now because she's sick of dealing with her husband acting like this. But I know she has it too. She was just hiding hers under his, and her solution was to buy stuff and disassociate. Now she's having like a secret affair in her mind with this new rebound dude. And she's planning to move to, across the world to another country. That's the polarity of her normal life here. That's how her other pole behaves when there is a louder polarity to hide it under. Think about it. I have it. I still have it a little bit, but it's gotten a lot better over the years. I came from extreme trauma, so not only did I have my own energetic crazy, but I had it modeled for me by my father. He was physically violent. And that's, of course, what it leads to. But it can be just as bad when it's screaming and yelling, raising your voice, and spewing dark BS. Animals, pets, and children are recipients a lot because they can't talk back. Isn't this what the dark occult Luciferians want to cultivate in us, so we can't get along even with our own husbands, wives, and kids and pets? I can only speak for myself, but is not this the real problem that we face? That we have within us two poles and gradations in between, and the pole opposite to the one we like to show gets triggered, and we have no control over it, and we go off the deep end on those closest to us. And they get caught off guard and react, and it blows up into a terrible brawl. Or the other person just gets wounded, and there are rarely apologies made. This is the real polarity in our behavior. We show one face to the world, and the hidden face is the opposite pole. Polarity, yelling, freak out versus good, kind, upstanding people. And when we don't acknowledge it and don't admit it, we are lying, which is a form of theft and a violation of natural law, because polarization is a natural part of life. So then if we do that, then that leads to all the other laws being triggered, the law of cause and effect and all that. But if we apologize, then it can be integrated, because then we're admitting that we did it. Okay. I had this one mentor who has since died. He died in 2005, who told me that he made a commitment to never treat his fourth wife the way he had treated the other three, because he has learned, and now he has a way out from behaving that way. So he inspired me to make the same commitment. So far, so good, but it is an entire life change. It is the main focus of my life to not treat people that way. So how? Yes. Yes. I made that commitment to my present common law husband to not treat him that way. Yes. I have been, let's say, 90% successful. In the beginning, I did act out, but I quickly saw that we wouldn't be together if I continued to act like that. So I figured out how different ways to stay neutral. Yes, I have. Even when he doesn't. So when he gets tired and cranky, or he has pain or something like that, then his opposite pole gets triggered. And that's when I go into a state of neutrality and refuse to engage with it. It takes two to fight. That's polarity. Let's see now. What did I write? Back to natural law, treat others the way you would like to be treated. But how? Well, how to find energetic neutrality, because isn't it energetic? I mean, it's like a big whoosh of fire that shoots through your body and takes over, blows out the top of your head. There is no easy answer. It is a one day at a time, one moment at a time process in which you have to clear away past mistakes, make changes, go back and mend broken promises. And then going forward, you have to keep your path clear and clean so that it's not just your ego energy that's flowing through you, but you're tapped in to God, the source of all things, the creator. So you can develop that ability to switch over to God power. You know, like the Prius, when you stop the Prius at a stoplight, it switches over from gas to the battery. That's kind of like us. We have to switch over to God power. We have to bypass our egoic power. We have to, because it feels good, right? It feels good. This is the polarity of self-righteous indignation feels really good, but it's a polarity. So self-loathing is sewn into that. You can feel self-righteous indignation for that whoosh time, but then you're gonna get self-loathing later. Again, there's always polarity in everything. Okay. You also have to find a meditation practice that actually works, meaning that you integrate the calm deepness of the meditation into your daily affairs. And I recommend always that it's not a guided meditation, because you don't want to have to rely on another person. You have to rely on your inner voice talking to you so that you can hear it during the, explosion. So you integrate the calm deepness of the meditation into your daily affairs. You have to live morally. You have to seek God in every action so as not to cause harm to others. Basically, it means you're like trying to live in a state of neutrality all the time. And the more practice you have at that, the more comfortable it becomes. And so then being polarized becomes uncomfortable. But that takes a while to do. All right. Acting out in a polarization leads to extreme cruelty and debased acts towards children and animals. The more out of alignment we are with natural law, the more we act like this. When it goes to an extreme, other spirits enter the person and they can do things they would never normally do, like pedophilia, physical violence, adrenochrome drinking, alcoholism, drug addiction. When the two sides are not acknowledged in the auric field, that gives permission for other spirits to enter. I know this is never talked about, but that's what I conclude from reading all these different books that I've read and practicing these different modalities. I know this sounds crazy, but this is a based on quantum physics, which is basically what the Kybalion is illustrating for us. Everything is energy. The all is in the all, and the all is in all. And we are a mental construct of the all. The all slows down enough to create matter, and all matter is conscious. Therefore, there are spirits flying around everywhere all the time. The spiritual plane is the causal plane, and if you are unconscious, spirits can enter into your auric field. I know that's that's a big chunk to swallow, but you can read about that. I'll show you where. Polarization is an energetic habit. What goes up must come down. So according to Franz Bardon, initiation into hermetics, that's where you can learn a lot about that, what I just said. You can learn a lot about that there. Also, the Berkeley Psychic Institute and all the other psychic institutes that have sprung up as a result of the work of Leo Bostic, which is also based on Franz Barden's work, and Qigong, as well as John Friedlander and Gloria Hampshire's books, Basic Psychic Development, will talk about these things. So according to Franz Barden, Initiation into Hermetics, there is larvae in the fourth dimension that feeds off of our passions. Our passions are fueled by the polarity and our non-acknowledgement of the polarity, and the larvae wants us to remain polarized so it can lead us into these activities because it feeds off the energy of us acting out of our passions. If you are unified under God, self, creator, self being the big S self, higher self, creator, and acknowledge and integrate this energy, no other spirit can enter your auric field. But this requires humility, the ability to be wrong, and constant, vigilant action. The goal should be neutrality, in which we are aligned with unity consciousness, neither endorsing nor opposing causes. In all situations, when I am with a rager, leaving them is not the solution. See, we attract our mirror, but because of the polarity, we think, you know, I'm sure, look, I do this myself. So I talk about myself compared to my partner, my husband, in my peripheral mind, as if he's worse than me, but we're mirrors of each other, really. And so, like, you know, like my friend who's leaving her husband because she's tired of dealing with his outbursts. Good luck. She's just going to find another one just like him until she deals with it within herself. Right now, she's hiding it. She's hiding her rager under his. And it's just going to come out again because everybody has this. Every situation has two poles. So until you deal with that, it will just follow you wherever you go, unresolved. It basically means like that you could have stayed with the first person, like the first one, because the responsibility is on me to learn how to deal with my own poles. And you know what we read last week about positive energy being stronger than negative energy. If I am working on becoming integrated myself and I won't fight with my partner, then I will influence them to also become integrated and not fight, so that we can be unified together. You know, look at this for a second. I'll just show you. Okay, two people come together. If the relationship is based on a higher power, God, then it's healthy. But if it's like where the two people are trying to get power from each other, then it's unhealthy. There's no power there, and it's bound to break up as a result. Okay, I got to find my place here. Okay. Finding a way for myself to be calm in all situations is the solution. It's energy management. Here's the thing I see over and over, and why getting land together and going off the grid is impossible for people in the freedom movement. Because of this. This is why formal consensus is needed, because each person is in a different stage of this realization and embodiment of polarity. Most people are nowhere near even being aware of it. People are still in denial or delusion about its existence. There is at least one loudmouth controller in every group, and then there are the meek, passive-aggressive controllers, and nowadays most just never show up again. That's the way we do it nowadays. You know, in the old days, we used to be willing to work it out, but now we have our little smartphone dopamine kit in our back pocket, so we don't have to work stuff out. We don't have to be committed. They really have us, you know. They have us. Until we deal with this stuff on an individual basis, we will be enslaved. And that is the way it is. This is proof of that, okay? The whole reason of looking at the Kybalion, looking at natural law, is to learn what laws exist in the universe so we can learn how to work with them, rise above them using other methods to rise above polarity into unity, for example, so that we can be free. But until we, you know, do that, until we individually choose to learn this stuff, we're going to be enslaved. That's it. There's slavery and freedom. Those are two poles. Right now, we are in slavery and have been for millennia. It's just that we seemed like we were freer. Now, the dark occult are just encroaching more and more. But we've always been enslaved. Otherwise, we wouldn't have allowed this to happen, you see. Okay, back to it. And I'm going to actually post this document under the video in case anybody wants to read it. All right. So in other words, this is why formal consensus is needed, because each person is in a different stage of realizing polarity and learning how to deal with it. Most people are nowhere near this. There is at least one loudmouth. Oh, I read that. Okay, never mind. This is something we should have learned to contain in childhood. If the goal was evolution, obviously the goal of the dark occult Luciferians has been our destruction. That's why we don't learn any of this stuff. It is my personal responsibility to manage my own energy. I personally, in my astrological chart, am all air, fire, and water, and I have no earth in my chart. So I am very hot-headed and loud and emotional. It is unseemly for a female to behave this way. I behave naturally this way, and I've had to learn to put a lid on it. A lot of people use alcohol, which, by the way, has its own spirit in it, which was taken without permission. So it just creates more slavery. So once they take enough, a disembodied spirit enters the body and has a field day with the person. Certain family lineages have a propensity for this way of dealing with polarity. Others use drugs or sedatives to numb themselves to how they behave while they're polarized. Others use other things, and all that is so readily available these days because people are making money off of it. Fake green paper. Now we have pharmaceuticals to keep us neutral, but they deaden us from our connection to the higher power and create the transhuman agenda. The dark occult Luciferian globalists know this about us, and they use our polarization for their own advantage. We buy products when polarized. We don't stand up for what is right. We don't stand up for our rights when we are polarized. If you grew up with polarized parents, you disassociate, leave the body to deal with it. Disassociation is the opposite pole of neutrality. Yes, it is. Some people have enough control that they only polarize with those closest to them. Some people embarrassingly do it in public. Then they are pointed out as outcasts of society. This is a disease of the collective, polarity, when we all act like we ain't got it. People buy each other gifts to be forgiven for an episode. They try to use a material solution for a spiritual problem. The real solution is that each person has to commit to raising their frequency above acting that way and to do whatever is necessary energetically. I have personally done this, and that's why I can speak about it. One way to begin to get a hold of this is to apologize after every episode. In this way, you acknowledge that darkness as part of you. Then that blocks other spirits from entering and running wild with it. Taking responsibility through an apology is the beginning of gaining control over it in order to integrate it. Dismantling past traumas in another part of it also. Oh, I know. Sorry. Dismantling past traumas is another part of it also, getting rid of the triggers. So in other words, like I'm an energy practitioner and I am certified in the emotion code, the body code, and the belief code. And that's a great way to remove past triggers. But you can never get rid of all of it. I mean, I've gotten rid of a lot of it that way. That has really helped me so much because, you know, I will just delve a moment into this. Prior to becoming an emotion code practitioner, I'd done a lot of work, but I still had a lot of polarization left over in my subconscious, and just the energy of having to clinch every time my father would, you know, become violent, created a lot of emotional, trapped emotions. And I could easily be triggered. Plus, I made faces, which was that was my unconscious polarity coming out through my face because I didn't know how to verbally articulate my emotions. I don't know if anybody there does that. It was extreme for me, and I have been fired from over 30 jobs because of that. So I used the emotion code to remove my heart walls, and as I did that, I no longer make faces. As you can tell, I mean, maybe I make some now and again, but they're not like I used to make. Trust me when I tell you that. So I know that removing trapped emotions has really helped a lot in integrating my other pole, the screaming Mimi part of me. And made it easier for me because having that polarized, traumatized child, I didn't even know it was there and I couldn't control it at all. I would also roll my eyes, huff and puff whenever I was in a situation where I didn't agree with what was going on. I would roll my eyes, huff and puff, sigh out loud, and make faces. And I had no idea I was doing that. So that's an extreme example of the other pole acting out, and it would really make people mad because, I mean, of course, it was totally passive aggressive. It was totally dishonest. It was a form of theft, but I was completely out of control of it. Okay. So dismantling past traumas is another part of this, also getting rid of the triggers, but you can never fully get rid of all the triggers that were created from ages 0 to 7 during brain development. You know, I mean, since I've been doing Qigong, I have actually figured out different ways to deal with what happens to me as a passenger in the car. I used to freak out when I was a passenger in the car. Oh my God. But I have figured some certain things out now that makes me totally neutral. Other situations too, where I would normally have an emotional rush, I don't have that anymore, thank God. But I do have to practice this on a daily basis. It's not a one and done thing. It's something I have to integrate into my regular routine. Can't forget about it. Can't move on from it. You know, I have to continue doing it forever. As long as I'm on this planet, I'm going to have to keep doing it. Acknowledging that this is part of you is mortifying. How can it be? But this drove me to find solutions. It's an entire lifestyle shift. So I had to become moral, give up all the wild hairs like gossip and slander that make me separate and different from you, which is another polarity, right? Comparing myself to other people and seeing where I am superior sets me up to be polarized into behaving like a total asshole later. Ultimately, though, I personally had to find physical forms of meditation to balance myself. Also, allowing myself to get run down physically by not sleeping regularly and not taking care of myself if I'm ill makes me available to be ruled by polarity. It takes two to fight. That's polarity. If you decide to step out of the fight and take on your energy, not by disassociating or using some number or distraction, but simply by having an energetic response of neutrality, then you will build spiritual strength like no other. So I just want to make this an addendum video. And next time I'll be starting on the next chapter, chapter 11, which I don't know what it is right now. Until next time.